Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Making the Complex Simple podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Whalen, and this is a podcast where we talk about what I went through the last week in my business. I give you the lessons without actually having to go through the failures yourself. And so hopefully today you have some good takeaways. You're able to implement some things in your business because it's not just enough to listen, you must also apply. That's when learning has occurred. So we're going to jump right in. There's a couple good topics that I want to talk about today. And so let's go ahead and get started. So the number one thing was that during these last week and a half, 2 weeks, one of the things I had to do was make a tough decision. And obviously, when you have different people that you're working with and have grown with over the years, there comes a time where you have to figure out: are they helping me move in the direction that I want to go in, or are we moving in separate directions? So I think about it like paths crossing, right? You have paths, and sometimes with people and relationships, with your business relationships, with your romantic relationships, with your family, whatever it is, like sometimes you're going down the same road, the same path. And then other times you're like, well, I want to go this direction. And they may be like, you know what, you can still do that direction. I'm going to go to the left, you go to the right, whatever it is. And so sometimes that does happen. You start growing in separate directions. And so I ran across this decision I had to make where I either continue to work with this individual who I've worked with a long time, or if it was time to really move on. And one of the things I had to ask myself was, are we aligned? And I think that's a really great question. If you're in again, whatever relationship you're thinking about, you can ask this question of, are we aligned? Do I feel like we're moving in the same direction? Do I feel like what they see and what I see, I can agree with their points and I can learn a lot from them and they can help me go to that next level, that next stage of my journey? Or is it better at this point to say thank you and to bless the relationship in whatever way you want to, and then take your own path because you feel like, at this point you can move faster? And so I felt like that was where I was at in this decision that I had to make. And I said, if I continue to work with them and we come to an agreement, will this move me closer to my goals faster? Or do I feel like this slow me down? And so after thinking about it for a while, obviously you want to let the emotion side and make it from a more calm, balanced perspective. And I realized I was going to be able to move faster without them moving forward than it was with them. And that's not to say anything bad about, the team and the people, but at a certain point, if you're outpacing them or you're moving in a direction and you're no longer exactly aligned, maybe it's time to cut ties with them. And it's not a bad thing, but a decision, I think it comes from the Latin term, but it means to cut off. So you're going to have to make these decisions in your business, and they are not easy, right? There's relationships, there's people, there's emotions and things involved. And so really, really hard, but it can feel like cut off and you're losing something. And so sometimes it's really hard, but you have to be able to let those things go in order to continue on your path. Just as things leave you, that creates space for new things to come and enter into your world or enter into your space. So I always think about it like the seasons or timing. When one thing ends, the next chapter begins and there's something new. And so in one way, you're losing something familiar, right? It could be a process you used to do, used to be a person you used to work with, whatever it is. But sometimes those familiar things are what are holding you back from getting to that next stage in your business. And so you have to be able to do that. You have to be cutthroat in a way as a business owner and to realize, where is your time best spent? Because I've said this over and over again on my podcast, but as a business owner, you're going to have unlimited opportunities. And as you grow your business, as you grow revenue, the opportunities are going to look bigger because you're going to be starting to go around different people. You're going to start networking. You're going to start doing these things. And so in the beginning, it may be you're turning down, $1,000 opportunity. And then when you get bigger, now you're turning down $10,000 opportunities. And then all of a sudden you're turning down $1 million opportunities. And it keeps on getting bigger and bigger. But you just got to know, what direction do you want to head in? Where are you going, right? That's a really, really important thing. Where do you want to go? And then you just align your actions with those things that you feel like are going to get you there the quickest and in the way that you want to go. Now, that being said, I also think there's something about knowing where you want to go, because I feel like a lot of people don't know where to aim directionally at the target. And so I don't think you need to have it pinpoint down where you can write out in paragraphs of exactly what it is that you want. But I think directionally you need to know, where you want to go. So that target that you're shooting for. And so that brings me into number two, which is kind of some of the YouTube videos that I've been doing recently and I'm trying to have improve each and every week. And so one of the things I always think about is as I get to the part where the video's done, I'm doing a little bit of editing. How much editing do I want to do to these videos? How much post production, whiz bangs, and flashes across the screen do I want to add to entertain the people who are watching the video? Because that's really what that's for at that point. Again, it goes back to the thing. What is the end goal that you're looking to achieve here? And so for me, I always want to look to incorporate things that I can do over a long period of time without fatiguing. And I feel for me, if I'm spending more and more time upgrading my editing skills and doing that piece, then I'm taking away from other parts of the business that I could be working on. For me, well, what do I want to maintain? What do I want to build around? What do I want to keep consistent over time? I'm not saying you can't improve upon it, but what's the floor? Where am I going to set things? And so for me, how can we do light editing, more focus on improving the quality of the content that I'm saying or in the prep work that I'm doing rather than on the post-production editing. So if I had to choose, I'd rather choose on improving my presentation skills, my communication skills, and the research and prep that I do into these videos rather than on the post-production. Why? Because the skills of communication will apply across way more fields than adding a little bit more as far as the skill of editing. So if you think about it, you could take communication skills, you can apply it to sales, you can apply it if you ever want to speak on stage, and pretty much if you have the communication skill down, you can use it in a lot of other areas of your life. And so I just see that one as such a high level universal skill. I would rather focus my time for energy on that rather than editing. And so that's how I think about it and how it can be leveraged, that skill that I'm using to create YouTube videos in other areas of my life. And so it can compound more. And then as I'm looking at YouTube videos as well, obviously I'm still early stages in my career of YouTube, but I do feel like each video that I'm doing is better. The quality that I'm being able to put into the videos, I think is increasing. And just an observation, if you're making videos yourself or if you're considering about getting into YouTube videos, I've suggested this before, but going into looking at the thumbnails, which is the preview image, and the titles will be really helpful to get you an idea of what other people are doing. Because if no one clicks on your video, and it doesn't matter. Everything inside the video doesn't matter if they can't click on it. So, I spent more time looking at it. And what's really interesting is if you listen to my last podcast about the core elements of value, what makes things valuable, that's exactly what people are using, creators and people that make YouTube videos are using in their thumbnails and in their headlines. So if you look on YouTube, or at least the videos that I look and the recommendations it give me, right? So you may have a totally different experience on YouTube, but I'm giving you what I see. And so it'll be titles like, oh, this is so easy. Oh, this will save you so much. Or here's 10 years of whatever industry lessons in 30 minutes, right? It's saving you time. So if you look at the core elements of value, they're all throughout people's YouTube video thumbnails and headlines. So if you're really struggling with that, really think about what makes something valuable to someone else. What would make someone want to click on that video and watch it? And incorporate that. Now, I'm not saying that it'll instantly improve your click-through rate, but you want to at least start where everyone else is and then go from there. And the part where I'm at now is how much of that needs to be in the videos versus doing something that kind of aligns with who you are, right? So if you feel like it's too clickbaity, or if you feel like it doesn't represent what the video is, then it may be something where you have to think about how can I present this in a way that'll still get people to click and fall in line with my values and how I want to come across on screen and on video with people. So just some things to consider. Just as far as an update on my YouTube channel, it was doing pretty well. I think I covered a few episodes ago how I was able to unlock a whole bunch of views out of nowhere just by starting to work on improving the titles, especially of the short videos. But I feel like if you do that and your content isn't the best, meaning if it doesn't retain enough people or if people don't watch all the way through, then that only works for so long with the YouTube algorithm before it'll stop recommending your videos in feed. So I think it worked for me for a bit, but then that let me know I need to improve the quality of my videos. Since I don't want to do all this flash bang things coming up on the screen, popping, sound effects, then I really have to focus on controlling my voice, controlling my tone, giving really unique insights, telling really great stories. And I think that will help captivate the audience a little bit more and help them stay on the video longer. So once YouTube starts showing your videos to people, right, the algorithm starts sending it a little bit, then it's just based off of how long they stayed. Do they like it? Do they watch more of your content? And then it'll start feeding it even more to more people. So I think, again, it goes back to really, really focusing and doubling down on the quality. There's all these tactics and secrets that people will try to sell you when you're going on YouTube to find ways to help you improve your click-through rate or your watch time or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, most of those titles are there to get you to click on the video. So that's the interesting thing that I see for myself now a little bit is I can see how a lot of these creators, a lot of people who make YouTube videos are just creating titles and headlines to get you to watch through their content, because then it'll help one promote more of their content to you. And so, yes, although the quality is somewhat decent, it's not amazing. I think most people focus more on the bells and whistles, the whiz bangs and flash buys and those types of things, rather than giving really unique tactical things that people can apply to their business. That's my observation of YouTube right now. It's really lacking in substance and it's a lot of fluff. That's my opinion on a lot of channels. And so when you go to find things, a lot of times from a business perspective or for helping you try to improve your YouTube videos, I really don't find a lot of really good tactical advice. So that's what I want to bring more into my videos. I want to bring that more into my content of really things that can help people who are struggling in a certain area. For me, it's for business finance, right? And help them with things that they can overcome right on the video, right? That's super helpful, super specific, and things that they can implement. Kind of like this. When I make these podcasts, I want to try to give you the things that I'm seeing, the things that I'm noticing, to help you better understand how you can then hopefully apply it to your business or your content creation, whatever it is that you're doing. So some really good things to think about is when you're making this content, I always go back to it too. Is the thing that I'm giving really valuable? And I think specificity, which we've talked about before, again, go back to the last podcast if you want to hear the whole list of what I consider valuable. But specificity is really key. So if you can get very specific to a group of people and help them solve some of the things that they're going through, I think that's going to build so much goodwill with the audience that you may want to connect with more. So just my thoughts. If anything, I am going to try to focus more on tactical, really detailed, granular things that people can use and implement into their business to help them grow. Because that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help business owners solve their problems from my financial lens in my business. So that's where a lot of my content is. And that's where I feel like I want to double down even more on is how can I give them really practical, tactical advice for the things they're really going through, rather than all this fluff that I see on social media and I see on YouTube where it's like, do these 3 things. And it's just like very fluffy content or things that most people already know and it's nothing new, or it's not giving them really specific ways on how they can apply it to their business. Those are some things that I'm going to be working on and continuing to improve in my content moving forward. So if you see in the coming weeks and months, that's what it's going to be more geared towards, more specificity, hopefully more tactical things that people can use and leverage right there and then. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about today was sales. Now, I've been doing this full time for almost 6 months now for my business. I've definitely made a lot of tweaks to the sales process, but I haven't been on a tremendous amount of sales calls, because if you think about it, if you hire someone in your business for sales, that's all they do every day. That's not necessarily my role. I am on sales calls, but I'm also the one scripting the YouTube videos, shooting YouTube videos, editing YouTube videos, making short form content, dealing with clients, dealing with my team, responding to emails, and all these other things that just are required to run your business on a day-to-day. So my sales learning, I would say, would definitely be more accelerated if I was working at a car dealership and that's all I did was sell all day. So even though I'm 6 months in, I definitely am still learning a lot when it comes to sales. And one of the things I learned recently was try to do a pre-call video to help really with a lot of the information that gets asked on the calls. So ideally on a sales call, when you're dealing with high touch services, when you're trying to sell things that are larger in value to other businesses, This is where this applies. Now, when you're doing that, ideally on the call, you want to spend, and this is as I'm learning, I'm doing this more, you want to spend probably 80 to 90% of the time just listening, asking questions and listening. And so, in order to be able to do that, you want to make sure everything else is, they already know everything else. You want them to be able to know who you are, what you do, how you've helped other people, what services that you offer, what you don't offer, how your offer is unique, those things. So, if you could throw all that into a pre-sales call video, if you can bundle that up into a video, then you could spend a majority of the time just listening to what their unique situation is, who they are, what they're needing help with, and then see if there's a good fit for you. So I think a pre-call video helps a lot. And I think doing things that come up all the time in your sales process when you're on these calls would be a great pre-call questionnaire, like an FAQ, or the services that you offer or the tiers that you offer. If you're not giving them a pamphlet, you can put it into the video. And then if there's any common objections that you hear on the phone, and an objection is just something that people will say on a sales call to pretty much not move forward right then and there. So the most common objections are, it costs too much, I need time to think about it, I need to involve my spouse in the decision, those types of things, right? So there's a list of common objections that you're going to hear all the time. And so for your business or for what you have as a service, you get a certain type of objection a lot from business owners. Put that in your pre-call video, so then that way they can't use it on the call. So there's ways to handle these things. And if you could do all that beforehand, then the call can really be about making sure it's a good fit, that you're listening to them. And then that way you can move forward. If everything is what they're looking for, it solves their problem, and there's a good fit. So pre-call videos help. If you're not doing it, I would highly suggest it. Just as a real tactical thing, because I'm trying to get more tactical with everyone here. I put it on a separate website page. So when they book a call with me, boom, there's book a call, then there's a thank you page. And the thank you page says, hey, here's these things to get ready for our call. Make sure you're in a quiet space. Make sure you have your video camera on. Just some really simple things that people sometimes will often forget, or it's just kind of setting the expectations up front of what's going to happen on the call. And then after the thank you page, I have a button that says, click here to watch the video. It's required to watch before we jump on our call. And so they either can watch it right when they book the call and they go to the thank you page, or I send an email confirming that their time for their appointment or for their call. And then in that email, I'll also put a link to the video. And so whatever CRM you're using, you can see if they actually visited the page that your video is hosted on. So if they click the link or if they click the button now on the thank you page, they'll go over to the video, and then you'll see at least they landed on the page. And if they actually watch the video or not, you're not really going to know that, other than maybe looking at YouTube analytics for around the time that they were watching to see if did someone press play around this time. But at the end of the day, if you're getting a lot of traffic through, you're not going to know if people watch the video or how long of the video they watch. So obviously for a pre-call video, you want to condense it as much as possible, because the longer it is, the less time people are willing to watch it. So I would aim maybe, I think mine is 10 minutes, 11 minutes. So I would say 10 minutes is probably a good mark. Maybe 15 minutes is probably max you want to go there. And then the second thing is, I didn't have this, or it was very loosely outlined. It was on a notes app in my laptop, but I really wanted to create a formal script for my sales process. So that way, when I get on these calls, it's the same process every time, the same all the way up to you presenting the things that you do and the price at which you do it at. All that should be the same. And again, all of it is just asking them questions, because the idea here is you want to, and I'm getting down a little bit later into my bullets here, but you want to make them feel seen, heard, and understood. And so this is going into EQ or emotional intelligence, but that's the whole goal. People want to feel seen, heard, and understood in these higher level sales calls. I relate it pretty much very closely to a therapy session. You got to be there. You got to be a therapist for the first, if it's an hour call, 30, 40 minutes. If it's a half an hour call, maybe the 15, 20 minutes, right? And so it's really about making them feel seen, heard, and understood. You understand their unique situation, that you can empathize with them, or you can understand where they're coming from, that you can hold space for them and you're not judging them, and you're curious, right? And so all those things play a role. And I heard this on a video, and I don't remember who said it, but a good salesperson will sell the products or the features, right? And then a great salesperson will sell the outcome. Oh my gosh, you'll be able to do A, B, and C once you implement this. And the best salesmen sell on the emotion. And so people will remember how they felt more than what you said. And so you want to be able to connect with them on an emotional level in the sales call. You want to make them feel really connected to you. And I always want to try to unbundle the term as much as possible. What does connected mean? And it's you listening, it's you nodding along, it's you repeating back what they said, it's you asking more questions to dig even deeper, right? Again, it's going back to that curiosity piece. That's what's going to make them feel connected to you. And so if you could do those things really, really well, you're going to improve your sales a lot very quickly. So going back to the script, you need to have a formal script if you don't have one, especially if you're going to do sales with people B2B and you're going to charge a higher price. And so you need to have it so that way you're consistent every time. So if you need to change something, especially if your team grows, you can change it in all salespeople implement it, right? Everyone follows a script. Everyone does the same thing. Everyone asks around the same questions. Now it's not robotic, right? You can have a list of maybe 20 or 30 questions that you can ask. And maybe on the sales call, you only get to like 3 or 4. So every sales call will be unique in that way, but there's a list of questions that you may ask to help guide the conversation or to figure out what's really going on for that business owner. And a really cool bonus that I found out is usually you have to pay, a lot of money. Like seen some sales program, and your jaw is probably going to drop when I say this, but there's sales programs that will teach you how to close, and they're charging anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 to teach you this skill. Yes, for the high tier sales closer skills, that's what this is called. They're charging that much to go through their particular training. Now, if you don't have 15 to 20K and you still want to, and you're a business owner, right, you're going to be more resourceful, then what you can do is, some scripts online, go on YouTube, find some people who are really good at sales and learn how they do their method. And then once you have a sales script, here's what I did was I stuck it into ChatGPT. And so then I role play with ChatGPT and I say, hey, you're going to be a business owner. You are going to be having these types of problems based off of previous calls I've had, right? I can give them a list of, hey, choose from these problems. These are the ones that are most common. And then let's role play from there. Like I don't tell you, you can decide what information you want to give me. And then it's based off of the questions that I ask. And so then each time it's a unique scenario with a unique individual, but AI is playing the role player and I'm just doing it in voice mode. So I'm going back and forth with someone and I'm training. And when I set up the chat for that role playing exercise, I say, hey, you're 20 years of sales experience. You're a sales trainer. You've done that at high ticket sales or really high B2B, right? You want to be specific to your industry. So if you're in real estate, you're like, hey, you're a 20-year experienced sales coach that have trained sales closers in real estate for the last blah, blah, blah. And so be as specific as you can and then say, we're going to role play. We're going to do it in voice mode. Here's my script. If I ever mess up, make sure you tell me, and then you make me improve or redo it up to 3 times before we can move on in the conversation. And so then the AI bot will stop you and be like, hey, could have done this better. And then they're like, okay, now like this. Okay, now do it again. And that's going to help you improve rapidly. That's helped me a lot like these last 2 weeks. And so you can definitely use an AI. I use ChatGPT, but it could definitely help you with your sales skill. So the last thing that I would say for the sales part is, and I've mentioned this throughout, but you want to ask a lot of questions. Like you want to be in the state of curiosity because no one can argue with someone on the other side who's just asking questions. So if I'm the salesperson and they are, jumping on this call, they can't argue with anything because I haven't said anything, really. I've just asked questions. The only things I've said are questions back to them, right? And so when you do that, there's no way for them to argue with you. There's no way for them to say that feeling heard or seen or whatever it is, right? So whoever is asking the questions on the call is in control. And if for whatever reason it gets flipped around on the call where they're asking you questions, then what you really want to do is get to the heart of what they're asking. So, you want to know if we have any certifications? What certifications are you looking for? And then they may not even know like what certifications they would actually want to work with someone with. And they're like, oh, well, actually we have this certification. And then, does that sound interesting to you? Are you ready to move forward? Right. So you always want to progress forward after you're done asking the questions. And so those are some of the lessons that I learned from this week. I wanted, again, to try to be a little bit more tactical, be a little bit more in depth with what I'm telling you. And if you find that this is a little bit more helpful, if you found something that you are going to apply to your business to help bring in more money or increase sales, I'd love to know what stuck out to you. Because at the end of the day, again, it's not about just hearing it, it's about applying it. So hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully there was something you took away. I'm glad you're listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.